We are Gathering of the Geeks, podcast and YouTube show built around the things we as geeks all love. Hashtag We Gather on Sundays. Thank you for checking out the one with 8 bits of the Polar Express. I'm one of your hosts, Emmet, and I'm joined by the Ted Lasso to my coach Beard, Chris Evans. Chris, how are you doing today?
I'm very merry today. How are you doing?
Oh, yes. I love your you mentioned that our intro was going to be quite subtle with the Christmas theme there. So I like the little addition that you did to the little intro there. Very good. Thank you.
That was the first time Emmet had seen it. I didn't show him beforehand.
I haven't seen it. I was waiting for something to happen because I'm like, oh, did he press the wrong button? He's just playing the same intro again. And then I was expecting
that seems likely, though.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking. Oh, Chris hit the wrong button. Here we go. So
no, I would have read
very good. Yeah,
we would have had to watch the intro again.
Again, yeah. So sorry, everybody.
You will see it and you will like it.
That's right. Gathering of the Geeks is available on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. Just search Gathering of the Geeks and you will find us. What's up to everybody in the comments already? Cookie, Eric, Steve, how's it going today? Phil, and DC Patrol, how's it going on this fine Sunday evening? Chris, it's our last show of 2022, which is a weird thing to say.
It is.
We made it a whole year or almost a whole year. By our next show, it'll be our 1 year anniversary, but we're taking the next 2 Sundays off, and then we'll be back again after that. But feels kind of cool to be doing our year-end show, and we're really not doing too much special about it. We're just kind of keeping it pretty casual as we usually do. We will have an announcement later on in the show for something else coming up. But how's it been going, Chris? How's the early Christmas season going? There's only 1 week to go.
I've been busy with my tap dancing lessons.
Yeah. I got no spirit fingers for you, Cookie. I apologize.
Not yet. We'll get him to do it.
Yeah. See how much you guilt me into it.
Jazz hands or spirit, it's coming.
That's right.
It's been a busy week, though. Getting the lead up to the holidays, I think, is always or Christmas specifically is always the most hectic. So I try to squeeze in stuff.
I was gonna say, would you find some time to read some things, to watch some things this week?
I read the new Mark Millar. He doesn't pronounce it Miller, does he?
I don't know. I thought it was Millar as well, but I've never heard anyone say it.
I thought it was Miller.
I assumed it had the AR, Millar, Miller. I can't tell.
He's French. Millar. I don't know if that's a French accent. It just happened. No,
he's English, I think.
I don't know. Either way. He writes a lot of stuff. So I read his new book. It's called Night Club, I want to say.
I think that's right.
It's a vampire book. There seems to be no shortage of these things lately, and I'm just going to keep consuming them.
I was going to say, you're not upset about it at all.
No, I'm going to keep consuming them, especially when I find one I like.
Yeah.
Like I have with Bloodstained Teeth and Little Monsters, which I need to finish. But anyway, so I read Night Club, which is it's an interesting read. I like the art a lot, surprisingly.
You're 17 years old and you've been bitten by a vampire. Do you live in the shadows and drink human blood, or do you use your newfound gifts for the dream costume superhero life you've always wanted? You're bulletproof, you can crawl up walls, and you can turn to mist, bats, or even a wolf. Why not have a little fun?
That's not what the first issue is, but cool.
That's what the preview is.
Well, they are a liar.
Oh, great.
The first issue is just all set up. You don't really see. I mean, you do see some of the action and stuff, but you don't really know where it's going because it starts out with a guy just want to be a YouTube star.
Oh, he's not a vampire yet.
No, he's a teenager actually. Like I said, he's 17. He just wants to be a YouTube star. So there's that. It was good. I will read another issue, but I don't have incredibly high hopes for it.
Oh.
I don't know if it's going to be a concept I like.
Yeah, I hadn't heard about it. I think I saw some people online talking about it. I skipped over the little thing, but it said it's going to be $1.99.
Yes,
a nice cheap comic for if people are looking for something to pick up at their local comic shop. That's a pretty sweet deal. It's a regular size book.
Yeah, and for $2, I mean, $2.
Nothing wrong with that, for sure.
Yeah, it's crap. It's $2.
That's right.
But it was decent. I liked it. Like I said, I like the art a lot. It has a cool style to it. It's that in between realistic comic booky looking thing. It's not scratchy or anything like that, which I usually don't like.
Right.
So yeah, I read that, and I read Batman Spawn #1, which I didn't know was a one-shot. They need to be clear when these things are one-shots. Yes. Oh, also, before we forget, Steve also pronounces it Millar.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So maybe we are all correct or we're all wrong.
That's right. Let's all be wrong together.
We might be. I don't know. Millar does sound fancier.
That's right.
Than Miller. But someone writes Snowman Vampires. I would read it. I probably would. Carrot Bangs. So I read Batman Spawn. I wish that it was clear that it was a one-shot when I was reading it, because after finishing it, I was like, well, okay, next month we'll explain this. It doesn't. It's not coming. If it does, it won't be for another 5 to 10 years or something.
Mm-hmm.
And then I've forgotten this book even exists, and I won't care.
Yeah, well, that's I read it as well. I skimmed through it the first couple pages a while ago, and then I put it down. There's something about Greg Capullo's art that what used to find very much enjoyable when he was doing his Batman run with Scott Snyder is now I don't find it as enjoyable to read and as easy to read. So I didn't pick it back up at the end. And you talked about it, and you mentioned how much you did not like it, and you mentioned some of the story choices with the Court of Owls. And then we talked a little bit how it wasn't an ongoing series, or at least a mini. And I went back and read it. And I still couldn't get through it. I got a couple more pages. I got through 3/4 of it, and I could not get through the book. And I mentioned it to you. Todd McFarlane, his dialogue is horrible in this book. People talking, I find they're robots. Just the word. There's no everything that they say. It's not a string of clean sentences. It's just there's I am a robot talking, and this is how I am going to talk. It's just that's how I was reading the words. Specifically when Spawn and Batman are in the Batcave within, I think it's on the first 10 or 15 pages.
Which was kind of a funny thing to me.
Yeah. They're just having a back and forth, and I'm just I cannot get past McFarlane's writing in his dialogue. So I couldn't even get to the parts about, you were talking about the Court of Owls and how you don't think that McFarlane understands what and who the Court of Owls are. I couldn't even get to the point of the book. I couldn't get past how horribly written the dialogue was in it. And obviously something about Capullo's art isn't doing it for me. And it's funny, last week we were talking about ongoing issues and how sometimes they'd be better if some of them just ended after 6 issues, and now this is one issue I'm glad it's over, because I would not read any more of this.
I would have read more to understand what I was looking at, because I didn't hate the book. I think it's fine. I classify a lot of things as it's fine, and that's okay. This is one of those things. It's fine.
Right.
And I like the art a lot, but that some of the dialogue is weird, is what I would say. It's a little strange. And if you don't really know the world of Spawn, I feel like I got lost, because I didn't understand what a dead zone was.
Yep.
I didn't know why this alley was separating them. Okay, now he's badass demon dude. Now Batman's just Batman. I didn't get it.
Yeah, I wonder if does McFarlane think that Spawn is on the same kind of level as Batman, where people just know who Batman is? Are we supposed to know who Spawn is? Does McFarlane think that?
I think Todd McFarlane is a James Cameron of comics. And I don't even mean that in a bad way. He seems like a great guy. I like the toys he makes.
Both Canadian too.
Right. I think Spawn is cool. But I think you're right. Maybe he just thinks everybody knows a lot about Spawn. I only knew the stuff that I picked up from the movies and the cartoon. Or the movie and cartoon. I knew Clown was, of course, Violator. I get that.
Yep.
But yeah, it was okay. I did think it was funny, the Batcave thing. Hey, demon guy, go to my house.
Yeah.
It was kind of funny to me.
Yeah, very strange.
Steve says, even in the Spawn books, he relies more on narration than he does in dialogue. That makes sense, because there's a ton of narration in this book too, and it's it's counterproductive, I think. Well,
and dual narration.
Yes.
Batman is narrating in the inner monologue, and then Spawn is doing the same thing. It's just a bit much.
It's a bit much, and I don't know that I liked it. I like that part that much. So that was Batman Spawn. I would have read more. It's not coming. If it does, like I said, it's not going to be for a while. I do want to go back and read their first meeting, because this is the second meeting. I'm curious what the first one was like. And then I also I want to say I read it, but it's not a book you read. That Harley Quinn thing.
Yeah, the covers. It's like uncovered. It's just
like
all
that.
her.
It's like that Batman
covers.
book.
Yeah, Dear Detective. That's right.
But
Yeah.
this has no story to it whatsoever. It's just cover, cover, cover. Oh, here's a funny line from Harley. Cover, cover, cover.
That's right.
It was cool to see all the covers and stuff, but beyond that, I didn't really care.
Yeah, I didn't know what it was when I was reading it. I'm surprised. I don't know what the. Not to be weird. What is the purpose of this? Is Harley Quinn ending the story, the series?
Yeah.
Is that what it is? And they're just releasing.
Yeah, a new writer's coming on.
Okay, that makes sense.
New writer, new artist. So I'll be checking that out.
Mm-hmm. New artist, yay!
Yeah, happy about that one. I wanted to get to that new Iron Man book from Marvel. It's a number one, and it's I didn't get to finish it. It starts off like showing his origin.
The Invincible Iron Man.
Yeah, I want to read it. It's a number one, and I also did not get to the. There's another Marvel book I wanted to read this week. I didn't get to it. I forgot what it was. Oh, Dark Web X-Men.
Right. What's going on with this Dark Web thing?
I don't know. I tried reading the Spider-Man one. I was just completely lost. I put it down. I was supposed to. I meant to ask Nico or someone who reads Spider-Man, hey, what the hell is this?
You're right.
But I didn't get around to it. I kind of forgot. Hey, Travis.
Yeah, it's just like a mini storyline going off just Spider-Man books, the main Spider-Man books. Is there other?
No, it's Spider-Man and X-Men. It's a
X-Men.
crossover book.
Oh.
So that's why I'm curious. I'd like to read, get some of the Wolverine, get some Spider-Man. Sounds cool to me.
Yeah, that does sound cool.
I'll get to it later.
One of these days.
Yeah, give me one of these days. We'll see. But that's all I read. I don't think I read anything else that I could think of. What'd you read?
Nothing wrong with that. I read a little bit. So Grimm number 6 came out this week. And I just got around to reading Grimm 1 through 5 just 2 weeks ago. I remember when you mentioned it, reading Grimm number 1, how much you liked it. And I did not like it. And then I said I would go back and get to it, and I never did. And getting to the end of the year, I'm trying to read as much and watch as much as I can of all the things that came out this year, so I can kind of create a best of or my favorite list or what have you. So I read all of Grimm 1 through 5 sometime 2 weeks ago, and then I got to number 6. It's very good again. It's a very consistent book so far over the now 6 issues. Which is quite surprising. There's oftentimes there's peaks and valleys in a lot of different stories. I find that all the way through Grimm, and Stephanie Phillips is a very good writer, and almost everything that she does is very good. And I'm finding that with Grimm, it's just a very consistent story, and the art is very consistent as well. It's a quite a easily consumable read. It's not too heavy with the death stuff. Maybe that's kind of what I was thinking when I was getting into the first issue. The lore about death and the devil and all that kind of stuff in the afterlife. That first issue is like that a little bit, but then once you get kind of into the story, it's very easy to consume, very easy to follow, which I really appreciate, because sometimes comic books try to be smarter than they have to be. We just talked about Spawn. One of those things, trying to be smarter than it has to be, can just be a cool Batman and Spawn book, which would have been fine too. But yeah, Grimm, it's very simple, very easy to consume, and I really like the art. I'm gonna just double check who the artist is. Flaviano Armentero. Very nice name, sir. Grimm number 6 was one I checked out this week, but the only book that really caught my attention and kind of took up my headspace this week was Vicious Circle, number 1, from Mattson Tomlin and Lee Bermejo. We've been talking about this, Chris. It's so cool that Lee Bermejo does covers for DC.
Yes,
it's very cool. He does great work, but man, just seeing his pages in an entire book is refreshing. It's like, oh, good. This is how good he can be.
It's like a treat because we don't get it often.
Exactly. You get Batman Noel, Batman Damned, Joker, that Luther book. Over the course of 4 or 5 years, he's had maybe 4 or 5 books. He doesn't do a lot. other than covers. He did all the covers. I don't know how many it is for Detective Comics, 50 covers or something.
He did a lot of them. They're
a lot
all
of covers.
Pretty. They're all very pretty.
Sure, absolutely. And his Joker, The Man Who Stopped Laughing.
Hey, he's doing the covers for that too.
Yeah, he's doing variant covers for that too, and they're very good.
They are. They're so nice.
That Christmas one that just came out for number 3, which was a week
ago
the
or Santa Claus one.
Santa with the crying Robin on his
knee. Is so beautiful.
Outstanding. And they just I think DC just did their March solicits. He has a cool Joker one of Joker stitching his smile back up.
Yeah, I saw that.
I know you're not into the big gruesome smile kind of Joker, and that's very much what Lee does.
He does,
but again, just his work on covers is great. But I've wanted so long. My wife, who's Lee Bermejo, is one of her favorite artists as well, was finally happy to see a book that is front to back Lee Bermejo, and it's just. And not Batman, which is something I think we talked about when this book was first announced. Getting him out of Gotham City, getting him out of just drawing the same old thing over and over again. So anyways, Vicious Cycle is very good. Mattson Tomlin and Andrea Sorrentino did my favorite Batman book of last year, which was Batman the Imposter. So I wrote in a review that I wrote for the GWW that, Mattson Tomlin's written 2 comic books now in his entire career. And The Imposter is, I think one of the best Batman books of last year. And this Vicious Cycle, which is their issues 2 and 3 aren't solicited yet, which is weird to me. I don't want to wait really too long for them. And maybe it's just a Boom Studio thing. Yeah, so I hope not anyways. But there's, Mattson Tomlin gets it as a comic book writer, I think. I think he's very good with story. I think he's very good with his dialogue as well. And then, accompanied with Lee Bermejo, who is, the best artist, I think, in comics today, in a science fiction, crime noir story. I wish this book didn't come out at the end of the year because I feel bad putting it on one of my favorite lists, because it's just, recency bias.
Yeah, it's good. If it's good, it's good.
It is. Vicious Cycle #1 is so very good. I gave it a 10 out of 10 in my review for the GWW. It is the oversized issue as well. We talked about that. I can't remember if we talked about it on air last week or afterwards. So it's a $10 book. It's the oversized issues like the Black Label books. It's over 50 pages. I cannot get enough of it. I can't get enough of, and Lee's art in it. It's a time travel story. So the stuff set in the past and 3/4 of the story is black and white. Very classic Lee Bermejo. When the time traveling starts to happen, Lee changes his style and adds color. It's like Wizard of Oz kind of thing, when Dorothy steps out of the house into Oz and there's color, and it looks totally different. So I can't get enough of the book. It's outstanding. Chris, I hope you get to it, man. I think you're going to love it, and anyone who is listening as well. I didn't see a lot of people talking about the book as well.
I didn't see anybody talking about it.
So I follow Chris in Lost in Comics when he does his top 3 of the week. It was an honorable mention, which I was happy to see. But not a lot of people talking about it. And Boom Studio was promoting this a ton on their Twitter account. They had a giveaway with a contest and a whole bunch of things. Yeah,
well,
it was too confusing for me. I couldn't get to it, but
I think it's just that this time of the year nobody's really paying attention to stuff, and really. The Batman Spawn thing is the only I've seen people talk about. That's it. Yeah.
Well, I was reading that book on my iPad, Batman Spawn, and I'm trying to get to the book, and I'm just like, oh, there's a variant cover. A variant cover.
A lot of variant covers.
Variant cover. Yeah, it takes you 20 pages just to get to read the book.
Those are pretty too, but they don't compare to a Lee Bermejo book.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, you can't get past that. I will read it though. Since my desk wasn't put together for the majority of this week, I really didn't have a lot of time to sit down and read. Because that one I would read on the computer.
Yeah. That's really the only thing that I really got to that I paid really heavy attention to this week. Hey, Cindy, how's it going? It's so nice to have Lee in a book from front to back again, and not just the covers. It's just something about it, his work is just so good in this book too, and it feels different than the Batman stuff that he's done before too. Obviously, different tones. So.
I'm kind of curious just because of that, and I also wonder if it just takes him so long to draw is why he does not do a lot. Because his stuff is so detailed. I imagine it has to take a while.
I assume so. Like I don't know how people do it. Like there's the barometer or some kind of measuring tool for comic book artists. There's so many different types of styles, and some of them you can feel like, oh, they did that in a week or so. Yeah, I would assume. And then if I look at a Lee Bermejo book, just the detail on a person's face, like that looks like it took a month. I like I said, I don't know how he does it either. I don't think he uses pencil. I think he uses computer or digital.
It's probably. I think most artists are digital now. I don't know too many that actually do hand drawn stuff.
Right. And it's not watercolor or anything like that. He's not painting. I think it's digital. I think that I've seen that on his Instagram. I think he's done that. So, Vicious Circle #1 from Boom Studios, and I'm eagerly waiting for that second issue to be announced in pre-sale so I can order it right away.
Soon.
Yes. Soon. I think that's pretty much it for what I read this week, though.
There's a lot of stuff, though. There's a lot of books, but it was kind of a light week.
Are you going to get to that Tom King book, Danger Street? I sent you a thing. I sent you a thing on Twitter the other because it had the Creeper in it.
That is kind of like my main thing I want to get to this weekend, or I guess later tonight. I didn't have time to get to that. I knew that's one that I want to take my time with.
Yes.
I just kind of enjoy the Creeper because I haven't seen him in a book in. I don't think he's been in a book since his miniseries, which was years ago.
Yeah. So
I'm very excited to read Danger Street. I will do it. I'm trying to do it tonight. Plus, I kind of miss Tom King right now after reading Zdarsky.
Right.
So I need to see him. Need to see what he's up to.
Do you think about Tom King's Batman run often when you're reading Zdarsky's or Tynan's or whatever?
Kind of, because it's kind of like you guys complained about King a lot. A lot of guys complained, but we've got what we've got.
That's right.
Zdarsky's not even bad. I like Zdarsky. Nope. It is different. His Gotham City Year One has been great. I've been seeing that book. I actually didn't know it was Tom King, so now I'll probably go back and read it.
Yeah, yeah. I read the first issue. I think I don't know if it grabbed me enough to read the next. I think the third issue just came out.
I believe so.
If I remember correctly.
I think it was on Wednesday or Tuesday.
Yeah, so that's pretty much what I read. Chris, what about watch? Did you watch anything new or anything old this week?
I rewatched Spider-Man.
The first one?
The first one, yes. Yeah. The same. Yeah, sometimes you want to watch something just familiar because you can't process new stuff. And it was one of those nights for me, like, oh, I'm just going to watch Spider-Man. And every time I watch the first Spider-Man movie, it's like I'm watching it for the first time. I don't know why it has that effect on me. I love it, I guess. Begins has that for me, too. Like, every time I watch Begins, I'm just mesmerized by it. There's few movies that I do that with. So I really enjoyed watching Spider-Man again. It's funny, though, because the movie still looks great. Even the horrible CGI for the time still looks fine. It is what it is. It looks fine, though. But what caught me, what dates it for me, is seeing Macy Gray in the movie. Macy Gray is in the movie. That big parade party scene when Norman decides to reveal himself as Green Goblin for the first time. Right. They have the first meeting.
Right.
Macy Gray is the singer on stage.
Oh. That's fun.
Yeah, that's funny to me because where is Macy Gray these days? I don't know. And the other thing, which is a very, very small detail, I don't know if you guys had this up in Canada. Did you guys have Singular Wireless?
Wireless what?
Is a mobile phone company, cell phone company.
Nope.
Okay, so they have a Singular Wireless, not a poster, but it's on the Times Square thing.
Okay.
The screens and stuff. So they have a Singular Wireless. Yeah. That is amazing to me because Singular has not been around. I don't think they lasted a year after that movie was made.
Right.
So it's cool. Going back to the comments for a second, Steve says, I had such high hopes for Zdarsky. Not sure why at this point. I feel like he's writing an Adam West story. I do too.
You mentioned that about issue 130, I think, didn't you?
The start of it is like an Adam West thing, and then it morphs into Grant Morrison. Lauren's here. Hey, Lauren. Phil says the original Spider-Man is truly captivating. I agree. It is incredible start to finish, even with Tobey's weird facial expressions. She sings when Goblin comes in. She tried to walk away, but she stumbled. Technically, she did. Technically. But I love that movie. It's a good time. And I think I think a lot of us have soured on origin stories in these comic book films now.
Well, I was just kind of thinking that when the James Gunn thing that came out this week, where he's saying, "Oh, he's not telling the Superman origin story," and I think in our DMs that we were talking about with Zeddy and Nico, we kind of exhaled a little bit, saying, "Oh, thank you.
Yeah,
we don't need to know who these characters are anymore. We know who they are." So
the general public knows.
Yep. So that'll be a cool thing. But yeah,
it will. But I think the reason I bring up the origin of this is because if you're going to do an origin movie, this is the way I think you do it. It's engaging. You get engaged with the character out of the suit. He's compelling enough, and then you give plenty of him in the suit. It's a great balance. It's not like, oh, here's 45 minutes. He gets in the suit once, and then you see him again in the suit at the end. That's it. The rest of it is just a guy out. This is the way you do an origin movie. This and Begins to me are like the blueprints for origins, which they both kind of do the same thing, really.
Did you put Spider-Man on, or was it on TV? Did you?
It's on Netflix. All three of them are.
Yeah, but you put it on. You put it on to watch. You weren't, flipping through the channels or whatever, and it was on TV.
I actually wanted his background noise. I was messing with my phone. I think I was playing Marvel Snap.
Right.
And then I got sucked into it because that happens. Love Spider-Man 1 so much. Sure, we'd had Blade and X-Men, but this was special. I agree. I prefer X-Men, but that's just my own bias. They're both great, though, and I'm glad we did have all three of these movies. All three of them are just a treat, I think. I mean, Spider-Man, Blade, and X-Men, not Spider-Man 3. Not that I dislike Spider-Man.
It's funny to think about those in a universe if they did it, like
I guess.
Yeah, but it'd be so funny to think, they post those pictures all the time, or a topic of conversation on Twitter all the time. How would you cast the Avengers in the 90s or whatever?
I love those.
So it's funny to think about what the MCU would have been like if Spider-Man, Blade, and the X-Men were starts of the universe. It would have been funny.
Kevin Bacon is everybody.
Exactly.
Eric says, I think King on Batman, Tamaki on Detective would be my great 1-2 punch for the Batman monthly titles. I would not argue with that at all.
No, just go back to what worked.
Exactly. Phil says Spider-Man and Batman Begins are the best origin films. Agreed. Lauren says, unpopular opinion, but the first Captain America film was one of my favorite superhero origin films. So this one is a tough one for me. I love Captain America in these movies. Adore him. Chris Evans is great. We share a name. I am clearly cooler. My issue with First Avenger is the montage. I wanted to see what happens in the montage. I wanted to see him as early Captain America during the war doing shit. And they just gloss over it. I mean, we get some cool shots of him throwing the shield, fighting with a tank, different stuff. But I wanted more of that. But it's also such a good movie. I can't really complain. Like, I love First Avenger. The Cap movies are my favorite of the MCU, period. I love them. So that one's hard for me to argue with. I don't know how you feel about them.
I like Winter Soldier a lot. Winter Soldier is the top 5 MCU movie for me. So, yeah.
That might be my favorite MCU movie. Travis says, reminds me of how the DCAU with Batman Animated Series and Superman the Animated Series and Justice League.
I'm just laughing at Travis's lettering. Okay, this is a lot of work here, Travis. You're hurting my head.
I had to think, what is Superman? That took me a second, but I got it.
Yeah. That's funny.
He's right, though. I agree with that, too. Definitely a great origin movie, Lauren. I don't disagree at all. Oh, it reminds him of how they start. Okay, yeah, I get you saying now.
Yep.
I thought he meant the way the origins are handled are good. Then again, Iron Man is a great origin film. Is it?
Oh, you don't like that, Chris?
I like it, but it hasn't aged well for me because you do spend 45 minutes of Robert Downey Jr. trapped in a cave.
Cave, yeah.
Then you see him in the suit, I think, 3 times. I think it's 3 times. Because I don't count the prototype, the silver suit. But the big, giant one, I'll count that. Then there's a scene where he goes back and destroys the terrorists. And then you get the family. That's it.
There's a lot of origin in that origin
A lot
story.
of origin. And they just rely on Robert Downey Jr.'s face, which is cool. He's a good guy.
Yep.
Great. He's great in the role. I like the facial hair.
Oh, his early goatee?
Yeah, the early goatee was pretty neat. I knew grown men with grandchildren who were trying to shave their beard into that. I was like, that's interesting. Mask of the Phantasm is kind of an origin film. Yeah, it sort of is.
The one about origin films, yeah.
This would be quite an episode.
Well, it's interesting now, like we're talking about with James Gunn. Like, so let's say
such a nice piece.
Yeah. Say my son who doesn't know Superman is going to see the new Superman movie, but he doesn't know who Superman is, and it's not an origin story. There is movies that tell that story, or other versions that tell that story. They don't need to make another one, and I think that's what they're getting at. There's the origins out there already. There's lots of origins, and it's just a reason to watch those movies again, right? Because like the old thing about DC used to be that it's all connected and all that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. It all happened, and that's kind of true, but it doesn't have to be. You know, right. If you want to know who Superman is, just watch Man of Steel or the Superman the movie. You don't have to do an origin every single time to retell the story every single time, and that can be for anything. It can be for Captain America, Iron Man,
right? Or whatever. And for a kid, you have even more at your. Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, the adult can do it too, but I mean, as a kid, if you can't get to Man of Steel or something like that, like Travis mentioned, you have Superman the Animated Series, which is fantastic. They do a great job with the origin in that animated series. Or you can watch the most recent Man of Tomorrow animated series. Mm-hmm. Man of Tomorrow is really good, or I think it is. It handles the origin. It shows you that young Superman, which Gunn is probably looking at.
Right.
It's a good story. So, and a lot of these characters are just so popular now. Mm-hmm. I don't think you really need them to have origins. Mm-hmm. Like, who doesn't know Bruce Wayne is Batman because of his parents getting shot? Even if you don't know that, does it even matter anymore?
That's what I was thinking too. Does it matter about the, when I think about the Batman, does it the only way it mattered in that movie was because of that little boy, right? But but if you take that little boy out of the movie is still great. And then not knowing that Bruce Wayne's family was murdered in an alleyway, it had nothing to do with the storyline. Like a little bit with the.
Well, it sort of did, but the actual origin itself didn't matter.
Yeah, sorry. Thanks for you. Yeah, I need to dumb it down a little bit here, but yeah, like we didn't need to tell the story. Yeah, we didn't need to tell the story, and it's interesting. People know who Batman is. Mm-hmm. And my son and I were watching the. Force Awakens, Last Jedi, and Rise of Skywalker over the last little while, and we've seen the other ones, but he hasn't seen like A New Hope. Mm-hmm. Maybe he's seen it on the background or whatever. So, but he doesn't need to know who Luke Skywalker is to even enjoy those movies, even with Luke being old or whatever. It's a very cool thing, and we can go back. Like I said, you can go back and find out the origin. You can go back and find out about Luke.
He's going to be very surprised when he does that.
Well, I know we just finished Rise of Skywalker tonight, and they say, "Oh, Dad, can we watch some other ones?" I'm like, yeah, man. Where do you want to start? Do you want to start when Darth Vader's a boy, or do you want to start when Darth Vader's a little bit older? And he is Darth Vader. He's like, and he said we're going to start it as a boy. I'm like, all right, man. We'll start at the very beginning, and we'll go all the way through. We've seen most of them. We've seen most of them already, but we're going to be watching them in order or whatever. So yeah.
I'm curious what he'll think of Phantom Menace. We're going to have to talk about that.
I assume he's going to love it.
I'm curious.
Like I said, he's seen some of it already, but like watching these 3 movies was the first real time that he actually sat down. He'd have Lego in front of him, building Star Wars stuff, but this is the first one he really, really watched. I assume he's going to love Phantom Menace. You know, it's got Jar Jar being a stupid asshole. It's got the pod racing. It's got the pod racing scene. It's got Darth Maul with the cool lightsaber. I assume he's gonna like it. I like the Phantom Menace a lot, actually. So.
Oh, we will definitely speak about this later. That'll be a good time. Eric says, to be honest, WB needs to focus on creating original stories with these characters already established in their prime.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, a lot. Steve says, Batman and Spider-Man love to re-show origins, but they generally keep it to the first 5 minutes of the film, so I'm good with that. Yeah, that's the other thing. If you're going to do an origin, do it quick. I actually love the tactic that Sam Raimi utilizes in Spider-Man 2 and 3, where he gives you a recap of the previous movie through
over the credits, right?
Yes.
Right.
I'm a big fan of that. We should do that for all the origins. Because like if we had a sequence of that for like X-Men, whenever they do them, like we just see some kind of animated sequence explaining what it is, cool.
Well, it's like with the Marvel comics right now, where at the start of every Marvel comic, it tells you what happened the issue before. I think I like that idea too. It's like the Star Wars crawl.
Right.
This is happening right now, and this is what's sort of going to happen. It's just an easy refresher, and you don't have to like Steve is saying. It's 5 minutes. You move over, and you can move right on.
It doesn't need to be an origin film. It could be a film with the origin in it.
For sure.
That was a good phrase. I need to save that one for later.
Write that down. Somebody write that down.
I'm horrible. I barely remember stuff these days. Eric says we don't need to see the Waynes getting murdered again. Agreed. Mm-hmm. Steve says, I like seeing the Waynes get murdered.
Perfect back-to-back comments.
We're just going to end that comment. I like seeing the Waynes get murdered.
I like the back-to-back comments there. That was great.
If it didn't happen, we wouldn't have people begging for a Jeffrey Dean Morgan Thomas Wayne. That's true, too. And I would want to see that, just saying. Phil agrees with me on something.
What, he usually doesn't?
No, I'm just saying.
So that was our talk about Spider-Man 1. Chris, what else did you watch this week?
And Star Wars and stuff. Yeah. That was good. That was a good one. I enjoyed that. I watched the Christmas movies that we're going to talk about, but that's all I watched. What did you watch?
Yeah, that was pretty much it. Like it's Star Wars. I'm trying to think if I watched anything else real. I wanted to. Oh, yeah. Well, the other night, Saturday night, so Friday night, I was looking for recommendations on, and because I was looking for a horror movie, or I was looking for an action movie. I was looking for something I didn't have to think about too much. I watched Ambulance, that Michael Bay movie with Jake Gyllenhaal.
I wanted to see that.
Yeah. It's a good action movie. There's good explosions. It's
I like explosions.
I think it's an hour and 40 minutes of a car chase scene all the way through, but there's some of the stupidest character decisions, the stupidest some of the worst plot I've ever seen in an entire movie. It's just I'm a fairly stupid guy myself. But watching these people make very stupid decisions, say stupid things, it was laughable at some points. Aside from that, go ahead.
Is it like Speed with an Ambulance? Sorry.
No, they could have slowed down if they wanted to.
Okay, sorry.
Michael Bay, hell of a director. Mm-hmm. He knows how to do that action. This was the one that. He does. He screams, he laughs, and he's an asshole for 2 hours. They got the drone shots, a lot of drone shots in this movie. It's like feels like this is probably one of the only movies that I've seen with the drone being used for camera work. Have you seen any movies like that?
I want to say Tenet had some of that, but maybe I'm wrong.
I can't remember. Anyways, this is the one that the camera's flipping and diving and doing a whole bunch of stuff. Anyway, so I'm watching it, and the drone shots where you think it'd be. Have you seen that one drone shot on YouTube where that one that goes into a bowling alley, and it goes like down the lane, and it goes between the pins, and it goes like behind where they're putting the pins together, and it flies back out the other side and goes into a bar, and very cool, nice long drone shot. And that's how you would think that the drone shots would be used. A nice long shot to give us something from high above, and then get down really low. But all the drone shots are like 5 seconds long. It's like, oh, there's this big swoop, and then it looks like it's going into the tires and might go underneath the ambulance and swoop back around, but no, it just stops right at the wheels and cuts to another shot. So I don't know why they did this. I was expecting these big, elaborate drone shots, and there was small, elaborate drone shots that more or less just gave me a headache. Constant switching and cutting scenes and cutting this and cutting that. And I assume, I haven't seen a new Michael Bay movie in a while.
I think this is the newest one. I think before this,
but I
Transformers.
didn't see. I've seen the first two Transformers, but I didn't see Pain and Gain with Marky Mark and The Rock.
I forgot that movie existed.
Yeah, and there's another one that I can't remember what he did another one in between then, but like stuff like The Rock or Con Air or whatever, anything like that. It's just something very different about his style now. But if you're looking to turn your head off for a while, it's got badass explosions, couple cool characters, good actors, like Jake Gyllenhaal's great, Yaya's great. What's her name?
Garcia Gonzalez, I think.
Yeah, I know her last name, Gonzalez. That's right. As the
it's Isa. I don't know.
As the paramedic, she's cool. There was something online that it made me think that it was like Michael Bay's, grandest, most epic movie of all time.
It got good reviews, if I remember correctly.
Is that what it is? It just got good reviews.
Okay. And I think it's been a while since he's done an action movie, so people kind of flock to it, which I understand. If you're a Michael Bay fan, have at it.
Yeah.
I'm kind of curious myself. I wanted to watch it, I just didn't get around to it. And then I forgot.
Yeah, I kept putting it off and kept forgetting about it too. But I was looking, scrolling online and seeing what I was going to watch. And I was going to watch something that's on. Oh, I was going to watch Bullet Train, and I should have watched Bullet Train. I know we talked about that. I think it was a couple weeks ago. I should have watched Bullet Train instead. So again, when I'm looking for another action movie, I think I'll jump on that one.
It's a perfect Christmas movie.
Yeah, that's right.
A lot of good holiday cheer, and there's hardly any swear words. It's good for the whole family.
So that's pretty much all I watched aside from some Star Wars movie. And it was interesting this week. I didn't know as I was watching it. It's the big anniversary of a lot of the Star Wars movies.
I didn't know that either.
You posted it on your Twitter about, I think it's 7 years for The Force Awakens.
Yes.
5 years for The Last Jedi. And I assume next year or this year is this second anniversary for Rise of Skywalker or whatever. I think that one came out in December too, didn't it? Maybe I was wrong about that.
I thought they all did.
I can't remember now.
Yeah, I don't know. I've only seen that and Last Jedi once, and both once in theater, so I don't remember when. Yeah,
this when I was watching Rise of Skywalker today, it was only the second time that I had seen it. So yeah, the anniversaries are cool. 7 years since Force Awakens.
I love Force Awakens. December is also the anniversary for Lord of the Rings. That I didn't remember.
Ooh, nice.
Zeddy said Top Gun Maverick is better than Avatar The Way of the Water. I said what I said. I kind of figured it would be, though.
Yeah, I actually didn't have any doubt of it being better. I don't have anything to say. I haven't seen it, so.
I'm not going to see it.
So it's on Disney Plus.
It's not even on the list. It's not one of those I'm not going to see
it. That's
don't
fun
need to.
So that's what we read and what we watched this week, guys. But like I said, we've got Christmas coming up next week. Chris and I kind of thought about something we could do for Christmas show. And sometimes what we do on this show is we watch things that we haven't seen before, but the other person has seen. So Chris hadn't seen Polar Express, so he watched that. And I hadn't seen 8-Bit Christmas. So me and my wife watched that on Friday night. Chris, which one do you want to talk about first?
Well, I rewatched 8-Bit Christmas, so let's talk about that.
Yeah, it's absolutely outstanding. I loved it. I will watch it every Christmas from now on. I laughed the entire movie. I liked how the meaning of the movie, the point of the story, wasn't hit over our head for the entire movie as well.
Mm-hmm.
It's within the last 10 minutes of the movie, maybe 15. I love that movie. I love everything about it. I thought about it constantly since I've watched it. because it's incredibly funny. The nostalgia is a very cool thing. What they said in 1988. I was only 2 years old at the time. I don't think I got a Nintendo until I was 10, so that would have been 1996, a long time after that. But just the idea of it, and Chris mentioned, I think he mentioned on the show with Midlife Vices, how 8-Bit Christmas is kind of like a new age, a Christmas story.
It is, yeah.
Where Ralphie wants to get his BB gun. This is about, I can't remember the kid's name, Johnny, James,
Jake
wants to get his Nintendo. And everything about getting the Nintendo, the snotty rich kid who's got the Nintendo, the power glove not working.
I loved it.
They're raising the money with the wreaths and getting it, and then when that can we talk spoilers about 8-Bit Christmas?
I think it's safe.
When Jake's coming out of that mall with that Nintendo in his arms, and you just know he's going to slip on that ice because Neil Patrick Harris slipped on ice. I'm like, oh no, he's going to slip on that ice. And my wife literally gasped and said, no, when that poor boy dropped his Nintendo and it went flying into the road and got run over by that bus. It's funny. It's stupid. It's a great movie. I love this movie, Chris. I'm so happy you got me to watch it. And I don't know why not a lot of people why don't people know about this movie? I hadn't heard about it until you mentioned it. My wife hadn't heard about it. Some people in the comments have seen it because they're, they're smart, well-educated people. But it seems to me people. That very cultured people. Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm. Is it just me before you get into your thoughts, Chris? But this isn't a well-known, highly praised Christmas movie. Is there something about it?
I think. And actually, in the comments, if you guys have seen the movie, let us know when you saw it, because I'm curious. When did you guys watch this? Because it came out last year. I don't think it's well known, and I think it's because it went straight to HBO Max.
Oh, is that what it is?
I think that's the reason people don't really know it. But it is, like Phil said in the comments, it is an absolute gem.
It's amazing. It's great. I'm like I said, I'm putting it on my every year Christmas movie now. I'm watching it every Christmas. It's just outstanding.
Yeah, like this week I was saying, okay, we're going to talk about it. I know I loved it last year. I think that's an excuse for me to rewatch it.
Right.
and I did. And it's just, so for me, like A Christmas Story is a great movie, I think, as far as Christmas movies go. But there's something about it that just doesn't work for me as an adult.
Right.
Something about it. I also think it's a tad depressing.
Yeah.
Something about it just, I don't know. But this one, it doesn't have that depressing factor for me.
Nope.
And also it's closer to my, like I said, you were 2, I was also 2, but it's closer to what we know.
The BB gun versus a Nintendo.
Right. It's closer. And I did have a Nintendo, I want to say, when I, like, really early age.
Right.
Probably like 3 or 4. We had a Nintendo in the house. And I remember the Power Glove, and I remember it not working.
So funny.
So, when that scene is happening, I remember that. It was crap.
I kept doing the karate kick to the TV. Like,
yeah, and the sound effects. And
oh, my God.
And I love how that game was fake, but the other stuff they show was all real.
That didn't look like a Nintendo game.
That did not look like a Nintendo game. That looked more like a Super Nintendo or a Sega game. But, Steve says the Power Glove. If you were 13 in 1988, the Power Glove thing is so hilarious. The hype around the glove is real. That was just as real. Did you have one, Steve? So did you get to experience that too, or let us know? Die Hard is a Christmas movie.
All right. Take it easy there, Lauren.
I'm not saying anything this time.
That's right.
Cookie said I never heard about it until this week. I think it's because HBO Max. Steve saw it after I mentioned it on the list. Okay, Phil says that too. I was going to say HBO Max factors contributed to it falling below the radar. I think if this thing was in theaters, it would have killed.
It came out last year?
Yeah, it came out last year. It's been out for a while.
Crazy.
Yeah, especially with Neil Patrick Harris headlining it, this thing would have killed. Even the smaller role, the father played by Steve Zahn. Everybody loves Steve Zahn.
Yeah. I thought it was funny seeing David Cross in there too.
Is that okay? I didn't know if that was him or not because he looked a little different.
Yeah. Well, and he's not like David Cross is usually yelling or screaming or using his.
Yeah, I'm not used to him being like kind of a warm character.
That's right. Well, and not one that you thought was going to be warm either. You know, a guy selling Cabbage Patch Kids out of the back of his car. You know,
and the way he sells them is great.
That's right. Turns out to be the giving Jake the the meaning of Christmas type of deal. I thought that.
I love how he pays for the cab too.
Yeah, take this kid to take him to the mall, yeah, or whatever, the museum.
Time for a Die Hard movie night, booting it up for the Christmas season. My friend, Steve says my friend got one. He was everybody's friend shortly after getting his Nintendo. The movie is on target with everything. There you go.
That's funny.
But I really do love the movie. I think it's a lot of fun, and also it really nails being a kid at Christmas. There's always the one thing you really, really want. And it's usually something out of reach for whatever reason.
Yep.
I mean, I've experienced that with my own kid every Christmas now. And sometimes you can get it, sometimes you can't. It's just how it shakes out. So it's cool because you've been that kid. And then I like movies, or Christmas movies specifically. I mentioned with Jingle All the Way too, where you can see it as a kid or as an adult and you relate to it. So I like that. And it's a fun movie. And the ending does hit really, really well because you're expecting one thing and you get another thing.
Yes.
So yeah, 8-Bit Christmas, I think should be, if you've not seen it, I would highly recommend it.
Yep.
It's a good film.
I love it too. And I like some of the subtle stuff. And his sister, Santa didn't give it to me last year, so I need to try something else to get her Cabbage Patch Kids. So she gets her brother working for him. And then the thing where the mom gets the dad the belt sander or whatever, and then he uses it right away. And she's like, "Can you not do that right now?" He says, "You got it for me." Like, what are you expecting here? I'm just like,
I want to play with the toy.
Exactly. It's just like you give somebody a toy to a kid for Christmas. If I give my son Lego and tell him, "No, don't build it now," he's like, "What are you talking about? You gave me Lego. You don't want me to build it right now?" It's the same thing with
you gave me the thing. I want to mess with the thing.
And he's standing and he's happy as can be. And oh man, and you know what? When at the end of the movie, when they're going on I think they're going to see his brother or his grandparents or something.
Grandparents, yeah.
And he's sent out back to do the the shoveling of the dog poop. And I'm like, okay, there's a Nintendo sitting there back.
Yeah, you would think so.
And I just love the subtle little switch there. And I'd like my son to watch that movie. Just they understand. He puts lots of things on his Christmas list, and he doesn't get everything on his Christmas list. Nobody gets everything on their Christmas list. So I like the message of that.
Yeah,
it's not about all the things that you ask for. It's about the memories and what your parents. I also like the idea of what your parents can afford as well. Like it feels very real to me. These parents feel. 1988, obviously. So just there's something about the parents that feel very real. The mother's a teacher and she's stressed out and all that kind of stuff. And I like that she's got her daughter marking her papers. If there's a heart over one of the eyes, mark it as a fail. Anyway, it's just there's a lot of nice little small moments in the movie. I think that just make it work all around.
Yeah, I highly recommend. If you haven't seen it, give it a shot. It's on HBO Max and it could use some love. And also, I just remember the other movie I watched this week, but we'll get to that at the end of the show, because it's actually a big one for me.
Okay.
But yeah, 8-Bit Christmas, solid holiday film, especially if you like A Christmas Story. I can't recommend it enough.
Yeah, I think I would rather watch this over A Christmas Story just because of the timely nature of the story. Like I said, I think Christmas Story takes place in the 60s. 50s.
I don't know. It's sad to me.
Just something about that 80s nostalgia that everyone loves too, but like I said, Chris, it means more to us as gamers, as people who my first gaming system was the Nintendo. It was playing, I didn't have quite the experience that Steve is having with his friend who had the Power Glove, but I had a friend that had a Super Nintendo, and if I always invited myself over to their house to play that Super Nintendo. So that it's such a real thing about, if a kid has something, they're not always a jerk, but you always want to be around them to play with their toys. So I like
my best friend, man.
That's right.
My best friend.
All right. So Chris, the other one that we want to talk about, and this is one that is one of my favorites, is the Polar Express. So what do you think about the Polar Express?
It was fine.
I already saw your Twitter, so it's okay.
It was fine, and that's okay. I liked it, but I see the appeal of it. I get it. I think that it was very slowly paced. It's one of those times where I had to pause it for some reason, and I saw how far I was into it, and I literally said out loud, "What else is going to happen? What else is there?"
Sure.
But it's a good movie. I think it's. I didn't really get the heartwarming aspect. I think a lot of people did. I thought that the ending was a little heavy-handed with the bell, and you grow up, you can't. The magic's gone. Thought that was a bit heavy-handed. The animation, I think, is still pretty cool looking, despite it being so. It kind of looks like it to me was on par with the first Toy Story, which I know is inaccurate, but it's just kind of where I'm placing it as far as the animation style goes. Tom Hanks is great. I don't care if he's animated, real, if he's some kind of AI created thing. I love Tom Hanks. So it was cool seeing him as that. I also particularly like the hobo. The hobo was a lot of fun to me.
Right.
I like how you first see him. He's sleeping under the train.
Yeah, that's right.
And then he's magic, and he just kind of fades in and out doing random stuff. That was cool. The ski scene was one of my favorites. The thing with the skis.
Yeah.
I like that. Yeah, it was cool. But so this is something that's immediately clicked in my head, and I know this is just my way of thinking, and it's horrible, but everybody knew this was probably going to be coming. For me, so the child wakes up, hey, there's a train outside. This is bizarre. He goes outside. He gets on the train, and it's a train full of children with no adults around. You don't know where this train is going. That's how horror movies start. It's like you could easily make, we were talking about making horror movies out of copyright and stuff. You could easily turn this into the Hell Express or something.
Yeah, they're taking the conductor's taking them somewhere so the kids can be tortured.
Right, like they get on the train. We're going to the North Pole. As soon as the door closes, like Tom Hanks's eyes turn red and like horns grow out of his head. I meant the South Pole, and then the train goes really fast or something. I don't know. That's just kind of where my head just went there as soon as I saw the kid on the train.
That's good.
But I liked it. I think mostly I liked the kids. I thought the kids were cool, or well written, I suppose. The little the smaller kid they pick up from he's like in a dirty nightgown. Why are these kids in nightgowns? What year is this?
Well, that's the other thing. It's like in the Christmas Story type of things. It's
okay.
Olden days.
Gotcha. Okay, because the kid in the nightgown, I was like, dude, what's going on here?
Yeah, because they drive past the toy store, Hergensheimer's or whatever. It feels very much like the Ralphie's going in there to buy his BB gun.
Snowpiercer, but with kids. Yes,
that's what I want to see. I want to see some kid get his arm stuck outside this train and get it broken off.
I love Polar Express. I wonder if I'd like it as much without Tom Hanks' voice. That too, I got to be honest. Tom Hanks kept bringing me back to it. And all the variations he was doing. So I didn't even know he was Santa at the end. I was like, oh, that's going to be different. Yeah. Phil says, I like moments in the Polar Express, but it's off the tracks for the majority of it for me. The book works because it's straightforward to the point. I didn't know there was a book. I might have to look that up.
Yeah, so you're talking about it being kind of drawn out a little bit.
Yeah, I feel like we could have wrapped this up in an hour and 30.
Yeah, so did you see the movie Where the Wild Things Are?
No. I love the book, so I didn't really check it out.
So it's the same thing. Like the Where the Wild Things Are, I think it's like 12 pages or something.
It's really short, yeah.
And in every page, it's a single line of dialogue or whatever. So to make it a 2-hour long movie, they had to add things to it, just draw it out, and they did that for the movie as well. Like the stuff with the caribou on the tracks, that stuff's not in it. The stuff with all the conductors and the guy with his beard and the orange and the ice and all that kind of stuff. So they added stuff to it, and I get that. Like I like the book a lot. The book I love reading that book to my son. It's one of my favorite Christmas stories. So I get that aspect of it about being straight to the point. And they added the filler to the movie. I think the ending isn't as hard to grasp as the Tom Hanks character is, the hobo. I find the Tom Hanks hobo character harder for people to grasp, specifically on that, the skiing scene where they're going into the tunnel and he literally turns into
it was fun
ghost or I get it, but like
maybe it's too ambiguous in a couple of different ways. The story, I think maybe they were trying to be too ambiguous. But I'm a sucker for kids growing up to be adults in any kind of medium, in any kind of movie. So that's where this one really hits for me. And like you said, the Tom Hanks characters, I think he's outstanding. I think his voice work, I often, dislike very much when big name actors do voice work because it takes me out of a story. No, other way, I'm upside down. That's it. So, but something about Tom Hanks' voice, and maybe it's just because Toy Story, he has a great voice for doing animation and for being a voice actor. Just something about it, but he doesn't change his voice. He makes it a little deeper. And when he's the hobo, he's kind of got a little more wily. He sounds drunk all the time. And when he does the voice for the. Well, obviously he does the voice because the hobo's the marionette kind of puppet thing. Yeah. He does the voice for that too because it is the hobo doing it. But Tom Hanks' voice in this is very good, and there's something about him as an actor. Like Tom Hanks is friggin' Tom Hanks, but his voice work is very good.
You remember the scene in Interview with the Vampire when Lestat gets on the train and he's got the head, said tickets to Brooklyn. That would have been an interesting twist. Like the kid gets on the train. And like, if someone could make that edit, I'd really appreciate it. I think that's golden. Speaking of the hobo, and you said the ambiguous part of it, I kind of just took it at face value that he's part of the train. Like he's just there to show you, hey, believe, kid, I'm a hobo. Don't be like me.
Yeah, he's there to test them. He's there to test the kids.
Next stop, exactly. Next stop, South Pole. Or someone splice it. Yeah. It'll be gold, I promise. And you won't get kicked off Twitter, I guess. I don't know. Matthew. Hey, Matthew. Matthew says, I haven't seen Polar Express in a long time, but I recall the theater experience being really solid. Yeah, I imagine it was, especially depending on your age. I think that's kind of one of the things when I was watching, I was wondering, like, who is this movie for? And also, I imagine watching this as a younger person probably works better. Except the ending, which I think is just sad. Even remember getting a trailer for Polar Express from The Prisoner of Azkaban. It's probably a better performance than his take on Colonel Parker and Elvis. No, sir, we will no. That is a you opinion. But no, people do hate him as Colonel Parker, so I get it.
Yep.
I thought he was fine. I don't know what he's talking
about. The hot chocolate scene?
Oh, again.
We got it.
Hot. I like the song, but at the same time, you're throwing hot chocolate at children.
It didn't hit any of the kids, Chris. It went into their cups.
It could have.
Yeah, a lot of things could have. Jake could have gotten hit by that bus instead of his Nintendo.
Well, I mean, yeah, but that's different. Next stop is Alabama. That's all I know.
Yeah, that's great, Cookie. Nice job.
But yeah, it's a good one. It's probably not one I'll revisit though. And I kind of wish my daughter would have watched it with us, but she did not. She had no interest in it. So yeah, if she wants to rewatch it, I would. But like on my own account, I probably would. I think once was good for me.
I like when they get to the North Pole and they're in like the sorting room with the presents.
That was cool.
The conveyor belt and all that kind of stuff, and there's like the quick little tube that takes them to different parts of the North Pole. I like that stuff.
I like the Christmas town too, because it reminded me of kind of the whole town is Christmas. So I thought that was cool. You
like seeing Aerosmith singing there too, didn't you? As the elves.
Yeah, that was kind of neat actually.
So weird.
Weird, but it's the little details that make things great, in my opinion. And that's a little detail that makes that sequence great.
Yep.
And then the kid loses the bell.
He did, man.
But I think it was planned. I think Santa knew what was going on.
Yeah, Santa probably he knows what's up.
He's a smart dude. So that's my review of Polar Express. Cool, but I don't need to go back to it.
That's fine. So there's a little Christmas for our last show before Christmas. Chris, what movie did you want to talk about?
The Banshees of Inisherin.
Right.
So that is a movie that as soon as it was announced with the team from In Bruges, I was already sold. I didn't even need a trailer. So I saw the trailer, I was like, I am still sold. This trailer is great. Give me the movie. And then I finally got to watch it this week. and that is easily one of my favorite movies of the year. It's got Colin Farrell, Brendan Gleeson, and Barry Keoghan. We still can't pronounce his last name.
Mm-hmm.
He's great. And also, I forgot the name of the actress who plays the sister in it, but she's also really, really good. I can't remember her name right now. But either way, great movie. I recommend that one as well. It's a different kind of movie though. It's about for those of you who don't know what it is. It's about it takes place on this small Irish island, and it's about two guys, Colin Farrell and Brendan Gleeson, who have been friends, I guess, for a long time. And one day, Brendan Gleeson's character just does not want to be friends anymore, and Colin Farrell's character does not understand why. That's basically the movie. It's kind of like if you've ever seen Grumpy Old Men. It's kind of like the Irish Grumpy Old Men, but with probably a stronger story.
I would think so.
Yeah, it's got a stronger story, but I highly recommend that.
Yeah, but I'm gonna try and get to that for sure. Is it more comedy over drama? Is it heavy-handed?
No, it's not heavy-handed. It's a mix of comedy and drama.
Okay.
There are some like laugh out loud kind of things, but it's not Dumb and Dumber, I guess.
Well, that's too bad.
Right. It's a good mix though. It's a good time. Banshees of Inisherin. It is also on HBO Max now.
And you're a big fan of In Bruges as well?
Yes, I love In Bruges.
Yeah, okay.
It's also one of my favorites. I just kind of love Colin Farrell. That's another thing.
Yeah, I haven't seen that. I should probably, I don't know, like spiritual sequels to each other?
Not at all.
Like, well, spiritual as in like they're like Brendan Gleeson's in that too, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, but
and written by the same guy and
same. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess you could say spiritual sequel, sure.
Like it's like if you watch them back to back, you'd be like, you can get a sense that these are the same, same actors and same directors and.
Yeah, kind of.
Mm-hmm.
Same look to it, yeah. But the characters are wildly different stories.
Sure.
One is about a hitman, and the other is about just two Irish fellas.
I'm gonna have to get to both of those.
It's also good Christmas films, especially in Bruges. Once you see it, you'll understand.
Oh, okay, that sounds swell.
It is
one of those movies that takes place at Christmas.
I don't remember if it does. I don't think it does.
Oh, okay.
It's just a great movie to watch with family, all the kids.
Oh, okay.
And that's that about Banshees. I like it a lot. And if
I
had the time, I would. If I were given the time, I could probably rant about it for 20 minutes.
All right. Well, I will check that out then. Chris, we have something to announce. You want to announce it? Oh, jeez.
An apocalyptic drum roll for what we're about to talk about.
This sounds trouble.
It might be. Let's see.
That's right. Gathering of the Geeks will be covering HBO's The Last of Us for Last of the Geeks. This is one of my favorite video game franchises. The Last of Us Part 2 is my favorite video game, or one of the best video game that I played of all time. So there's a show coming out. It's on January 15th. It's got Pedro Pascal in it, Bella Ramsey, and others. It's coming to HBO. Chris, we've done a couple audio-only shows now. We did the interview with the vampire one with Cookie. We did the Rings of Power with just you and I. And then we did Moon Knighting with Aaron, you and I as well. So in two of those instances with interview and Moon Knighting, you and Aaron were the experts, and then you and Cookie were the experts. And it really helps. And I think in something that we had talked about a little bit, it's helpful when there are experts in quotation marks, and then somebody who doesn't know something as much about it as well. So in this instance, Chris, you have played 45 minutes of the game, maybe a half hour of the game.
Roughly.
So it's going to be interesting going into it in what your expectations are, where you think the story is going to go. Anyways, and we're going to be doing this with a good friend of ours, Nico Caruso from the Vigilante 1939. Like I said, the show comes out on January 15th, and we'll be having an audio-only show later on in that week. Chris, what are your excitement levels, expectation levels for The Last of Us from HBO?
Well, since I don't know much about the game, to me, I'm just looking forward to like a new experience. And I'm also very interested to hear you and Nico go back and forth about it because I know how important it is to you guys.
Sure.
And usually I'm on the other end of this.
Yeah.
Like watching something and you getting angry or not getting angry, depending on what's happening.
That's right.
So I'm curious what it's going to be like on this side of the fence.
Mm-hmm. I'm very excited to talk about it. I'm very nervous, and it's not that far away. It's a little under a month now. But, you know, Christmas is in a week, and then New Year's, and the time's going to fly by. So, guys, that's in our audio-only feed. And make sure if you're not subscribed or following our podcast, make sure you go to your preferred podcast platform and search for Gathering of the Geeks so you can listen to us talk about The Last of Us on HBO Max or HBO. I think it's just an HBO. Actually, I don't know that. Is it HBO Max or is it an HBO show? Because there's a difference.
There's a difference?
Well, Doom Patrol and Titans are HBO Max, but White Lotus and House of the Dragon are HBO. I don't know that, actually.
I think it's HBO.
I think
it's going to air on the channel, so I guess it's HBO.
Right. Okay. I'm very excited to talk about it. The trailers have been very good. I like everything that I've seen about the clickers and about Joel as Pedro and Ellie or Bella Ramsey as Ellie. I think Nick Offerman is in it as well as a character named Bill, which is kind of cool. And I'm very interested in how they're going to tell this story. You know, there's 2 games. Each game, if you play it without the actual play style or the gameplay, if you do the cutscenes, each game is maybe 5 hours long, maybe 6. So I'm interested how they're going to spread that out over a full season. Chris, you sent it to me that the first episode is combined into 2 episodes now.
Yeah.
It's a 90-minute episode, I believe.
Oh my God.
And they're going for 9 episodes. So I'm very interested how they're going to tell the story. And that's probably my biggest question mark, my greatest excitement, and also my greatest fear is what story they're going to tell and how they're going to tell it and what liberties they're going to take. You know, Chris and I and Cookie, we just went through Interview with a Vampire where liberties were taken. In some instances, it helped the story. In some instances, it did hurt the story. And as Chris, Interview with a Vampire is one of his favorite things ever. The Last of Us is one of my favorite things ever. And some other things that have come out recently via adaptations on TV haven't gone as well as I would have hoped. Paper Girls being one, Why the Last Man being another. There was something out this year that came out and I can't remember what it is. But I'm very interested to see how adaptations will go. As well as, Chris, I'm interested about you watching the show and then playing the game. If that'll ever happen.
After the show. I don't want to play it while we're doing the show.
Sure. Anyway, so I'm very excited to talk about this show. I'm very excited just to watch the show. I cannot wait until watch the show.
You kind of messed up there. Sound like you were in a fishbowl.
Oh, I'm very excited to watch the show on January 15th. Thank you.
I'm excited to
watch the show and then listen to us every week talking about it. I'm very excited to talk about it with Nico as well. We haven't talked to Nico in a while. Chris, we've done a couple different things, but talking about it with Nico every week will be fun because Nico's awesome. I think that's it. Anything else you want to talk about, Chris?
No. Drink more Ovaltine.
All right, Chris, set us up with some plugs.
Okay, you guys can follow me on Twitter at thatchris70, but as always, I prefer you guys follow the show at G of the Geeks. Emmet is better with all the subscription and YouTube stuff, so he'll take over.
You can follow me on Twitter at EmmettDavis7. You can find Gathering of the Geeks on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. Just search Gathering of the Geeks and you will find us. Everybody in the comments who's been with us for the entire fiscal year of 2022, or calendar year of 2022. I just wanted to say, like Phil's saying, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. Everyone have a great New Year's as well. We'll be back next year. Our first show after the break will be January the 8th. So everyone in the show, in the comments right now, Cookie, Eric, Phil, Matthew, Travis, Lauren, Seti, DC Patrol, Eric, Steve, thanks so much for watching and commenting, guys. And for everyone who's catching this on the replay as well, we will see you next year, which is always a funny thing to say.
Isn't it?
saying all that for Chris, and I'm Emmet, and we gather on Sundays.
Merry Christmas, everybody. Have a happy holiday.